Hey there, hi there, ho there, it's Wispapedia. So this week we got a dev update from Bungie on behalf of Joe Blackburn. Before going further, I think the Destiny community is fairly safe putting some faith in Mr. Blackburn. I remember seeing him on Bungie Vidocs for some raids during D1. He used to be on the raid team, and I think he worked on either King's Fall or Wrath of the Machine, or maybe both. Either way, he knows the endgame systems intimately, and I think he will be doing some great things with the live game. Anyway, there's a lot of really great information in the update, and I'm sure you've read it and seen a bunch of videos on it already, but I'm going to give my 2 cents as well. Courtesy of BalmyBlazer22 on Reddit, here's a quick list of what was said in the article. Witch Queen delayed to early 2022. There will be another expansion after Lightfall. Any weapon or armor that can currently be infused to max power will continue to be able to reach max power permanently. Sunsetting got sunset, in other words. Starting in Season 14, we won't be capping the infusion on any weapons or armor that have not already reached the cap as of the start of Season 13. Since sunsetting isn't happening, stuff is going to get nerfed. Fellwinters and Warmind cells were mentioned specifically. Power level only goes up 10 for each non-expansion season. If you grind to max power in a season now, you'll be in the pinnacle boundaries when the next season comes out. Season 15 will fix 3 peaking in PvP, stasis nerfs, Titan and Hunter mentioned specifically, and light subclass buffs over the next few seasons. Trials of Osiris is going to have its reward structure changed with potential solo playlist. VoG comes back in Season 14 with a contest mode for the first 24 hours. To claim Worlds First, you have to do the raid and a curated list of challenging triumphs. VoG is getting a master difficulty. They would like all raids and dungeons in the future to get one. Adept raid and dungeon gear will drop from master difficulty raids and dungeons. TRANSMOG comes in Season 14 with Ada 1 as the vendor. You need to do quests to receive mats to transmog a piece or pay silver for it. Shaders are now permanent unlocks. CROSSPLAY is coming in Season 15. PC and console players will only be matched together in the crucible if PC players invite console players to play with them. Ikora is going to have a purpose in Witch Queen, and you will, quote, see her in Season 14. In Season 15, we get Stasis Legendary Energy and Power Weapons. In Season 14, gilded titles will show how many times that title has been gilded in the past. Whew, so yeah, there's a lot of great information here. But I want to focus on a few different key points as things that I am personally really looking forward to in the next year of Destiny 2. Stick with me, as I know this might be a long one. First, Witch Queen release date. So Witch Queen was pushed to early 2022. What exactly that means, we don't know. However, I'm glad that we know about it now, and honestly, I'm okay with this. It feels like they're pushing more into the live game this year anyway, so I don't think we will necessarily be hurting for new content, and I am all for Bungie giving Witch Queen more time to bake. That said, I really hope it ends up giving us a bit more than Beyond Light did. Anyway, a later release date will be helpful for the game for a number of reasons. Hopefully COVID will be a bit more figured out by then. Maybe the devs will be able to develop some of the next expansion in the same space, which would undoubtedly benefit the creative process. I can only imagine how difficult it would be to develop a video game remotely. COVID aside, it would be really nice for Bungie to avoid November releases. January, February, and March aren't normally known as the hottest time to drop big games, but that could totally work in Bungie's favor. Beyond Light released really close to Cyberpunk this year, and no, Cyberpunk didn't have the launch people were expecting, but even that bad press took some spotlight from the mostly successful launch of Beyond Light. Witch Queen's release at a less competitive time could mean a lot of buzz for the expansion, and could be a huge boon for player numbers. I'm all for Bungie giving the expansion enough time. I would rather wait a couple months for a complete experience than get something that isn't quite ready to launch. You know, like Cyberpunk. Next, TRANSMOG. The long-awaited details for TRANSMOG are coming to us. Very exciting stuff. I'm looking forward to those dropping in Season 14, and I'm hoping it will give us a good amount of replayability. We will be completing bounties that give us a new currency that will allow us to change armor pieces into ornaments. You can also circumvent this by spending silver to buy that currency. I do have a couple concerns about that. I really hope we don't get capped per week on the amount of the bounties we can pick up, and I hope they aren't too much of a slog. A reasonable grind would be nice, but if it's something like 1,000 Vex kills per ornament, that's gonna be obnoxious. If we're capped at like 5 per week for these bounties, it'll be nice to have a week-to-week grind, but it'll also feel pretty limiting, especially if you can just buy however many you want with silver. I don't mind silver being used for this personally, but I really hope this is something that provides a lengthy pursuit that isn't artificially padded out week to week. Next, power level change. So I've actually talked about power level previously, and honestly I think it's one of my biggest personal issues with the game. Bungie is only increasing the power cap by 10 from season to season, with a 50 level bump on expansion releases. I'm a fan of this change. I like that if you reach the pinnacle cap from one season, you'll only need to get pinnacle drops for another 10 levels during the next season. This will make the grind a bit less excessive, and it'll be easier to prep for Grandmaster Nightfalls and other endgame activities. We will, however, still need to worry about artifact power, so keep in mind that we will still be grinding bounties and activities to raise that level. Honestly, I feel like that makes more sense for a seasonal grind myself, so I don't have a problem with this. I definitely feel like a more accessible grind should pretty much always be the goal for seasonal content. The one thing is that this doesn't really solve the power level issue. Aside from Grandmasters, Iron Banner, and Trials, your power level still doesn't matter as long as there aren't any activities that really take it into account. That, however, could be solved by the next point. Master level raids and dungeons. Alright, so VOG is coming back in Season 14. There will be a World's First race with some extra challenges. I can see how it could cheapen the original World's First from D1, but if VOG is different enough that it's a fairly new experience, I think it'll still be a good time. Anyway, that aside, we are getting a Master version of VOG. Joe Blackburn also said that they are looking at adding Master rank raids and dungeons for all future raid and dungeon content, which will drop adept versions of the weapons and armor. That's a great move. I hope power level does matter for this, but I also don't really see why they don't revise older raids and dungeons at this point. I'm sure it's not as easy as just flipping a switch, but I could still see adding a rotating weekly featured raid and dungeon that drops adept versions of weapons and armor. We don't know much yet about what Master Rank VOG will entail, but I'll be keeping my ears open. Higher level raids and dungeons have been sorely missed in Destiny 2, and I'm really excited they're bringing them back. I've been really missing hard mode raids since Prestige Leviathan got the axe. Speaking of getting the axe, Bungie is sunsetting. Okay, so sunsetting is going away. If you didn't hear, anything that hasn't yet been sunset as of Season 13 won't be sunset. That means 7th Seraph weapons and Warmind Cell mods are here to stay. They did also mention that Fell Winters and Warmind Cells will almost definitely get nerfed, probably rightly so. Sunsetting could have worked, but the implementation definitely left a lot to be desired. There just wasn't enough loot to chase in Beyond Light or Season 12. I mean, the exotics were great, but there just weren't enough different legendaries to go after. Season 13, however, fixed a lot of these problems. Granted, it was through reissuing weapons that players would need to re-earn, but on the bright side, those reissued weapons will also not get sunset now. So, I think that's a win? Anyway, the idea of sunsetting did have some merit. It was an answer to growing power creep in Destiny, and I think it could have actually influenced players to use different weapons. That said, the new perks and weapons are becoming interesting enough that I probably would be using some of the new stuff over the old weapons anyway. Chain Reaction, Subsistence, Thresh, Recombination, and other perks have made way for really interesting stuff. So as long as we continue to get new, fun perks, I think we will be using new weapons anyway. Sunsetting is definitely not the only solution for encouraging players to use new gear. Overall, I think this will create a much less confusing system, but I also hope we continue to get new reasons to use different gear in the future. Lastly, crossplay. Finally here. Season 14-ish? Kinda Season 15? We don't have an exact date yet, but we do have a better idea of when we are going to be getting crossplay. I'm excited for this, as I have a lot of friends who play the game on PC or PS5. It'll be nice to welcome them into the clan and play with them a bit. No one can deny that crossplay will inevitably be healthy for the game. Just consider all of the player pools that will no longer be separated. It'll be much faster for finding matches in Crucible or Gambit. Really, any matchmaking will be faster. The crossplay question has been up in the air for a bit, and even last month people were afraid that Bungie wouldn't be allowing console players to opt out of matching with PC players in Crucible. There was a tweet just last month that misled a lot of people into thinking there wouldn't be an opt-in, opt-out system. I'm happy that console players will be able to opt out of matching with PC players. I haven't ever played on PC, but it feels like a more powerful rig could give an unfair advantage pretty easily, so I'm happy with this system. It'll certainly be helpful to no longer have those player pools be split up in thirds and instead have one unified pool for everyone to draw from. Overall, the future of Destiny certainly looks bright. The big question is how and when Bungie delivers on these ideas. If Season of the Chosen is any indication, I think we do have a strong year of Destiny ahead of us. Season 13 has been off to a strong start, and we're starting to see the amount of content that Season 14 and Season 15 will have. I'm always looking forward to new stuff in the game, and I'm really hoping it continues to be a good year for Destiny. Hey, thanks for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you have any thoughts on that dev update, leave it in the comments. I'm Wispapedia, you can call me Wisp. Do the usual YouTube things, like and subscribe, and catch me on Twitch, at twitch.tv/Wispapedia. And I'll catch you next time.